Okay. So welcome everybody. I know we've just had kind of a little bit of an introductory chat, so that's good. And yeah, if you prefer to have your cameras off during the presentation, that's fine by me. And at any stage, if you have a question, because we are a fairly small, intimate group, I'm quite happy if you unmute yourself and just ask your question as it comes up. And when we get to the planning stages, I will be asking people to actually record something, write some things, and maybe if they want to share some of their answers. So we'll just see how we go with that. So I am just going to share my screen. And we'll get going. So thanks so much, everybody, for, as I said, for coming along, and welcome to Double Your Productivity in 2023. So there's many reasons why people like yourselves would come along to a masterclass like this. And even though for each of you, these reasons are unique in some way, they generally fall into one of three categories that are driven by the core frustrations that you yourself may be experiencing. And the first reason may be that you're actually working incredibly hard in your business, but you're not getting the results that you're expecting, and you just can't put your finger on why. You're busy, but you're not actually kicking the goals. And some days it actually feels like, when you try and walk in molasses, when your feet you're kind of like being dragged back and you're trying to move forward, but it's not happening smoothly. Then the second reason that you could be here is that you find your day full of distractions, which actually end up robbing you of the time and energy that you have to actually work in your business. So after working all day on your to-do list, you still have a great big list of unticked items, and you really don't know where that time went. And then the third reason that you could be here is that, like many of us, you want to grow and scale your business so that you can actually expand your impact, not only on the community that you currently serve, but on the broader population. But so far, again, that success is just not happening for you. Now, we did say a bit of a hello at the start for people that were chatting beforehand, but if you want to just pop in the chat where you're tuning in from, and just we'll see where we've got everybody signing in from. This is in Wynnum, not far from me. In Cleveland, again, beautiful Bayside. Do we have any other takers? And Colleen, she's our furthest participant. She's in Toronto, so a little bit chilly for her. And Mel is in Ipswich. So we've got a fairly broad-ranging group here today. So just thought that might be of interest for everybody. Yeah, did that come back up to show the correct screen? I can't see now. Can you see the...
It says core frustrations, Shell.
Yeah, and can you see anything else, or is it just showing?
Yes, you've got 1, 2, 3. You've got the 3 points.
Just the slide, love?
Just the slide.
Awesome, because it's when you're operating from this end, sometimes it doesn't look the same. So I just wanted to make sure we're all seeing the same thing. Okay, so
It does have all your notes and everything there as well, Michelle. So
okay,
you're
so
in the wrong view more so than anything.
Okay, so let me stop sharing. Thank you for that. And I will start sharing again. I'm just trying to get that right. Is it just showing the slide now?
Yeah, it does look like it.
Okay, awesome. That'll teach me to try and be too techie, won't it?
It's always the way.
Always the way. There's always a reason why you should just leave things the way they are and stop messing with them. Okay. Now that I've just given myself heart failure about not being able to do this properly. So what I also wanted to just quickly go through is that today at this event, my promise to you is that in the next 2 hours, you'll pick up tools and ideas that will enable you to actually create true long-term change in the way that you approach and you manage your business. Not just, a fix for now, or also sometimes when we fix things, we fix what's happening at the outcome, but we don't fix the root cause. So to create true long-term change, we have to look at the fundamental underlying cause and address that first. My second promise is that I want to show you how you can feel both calm and excited about your day, and not get to that overwhelmed and feel like you're running in a hamster wheel feeling during the day. And the third thing I want to show you is how changing the way that you plan and the way that you approach your planning, and the way that you actually organize your business can have a huge impact, not only on your productivity, but once you improve your productivity, you will see an improvement in your revenue and your profit as well. So can you just imagine what it would be like to actually work maybe less hours in your business each week, but still have the same outcome, or, work a little bit more, but double your outcome. So it just depends what stage of business that you're at and what you're wanting to achieve. But just that whole feeling of you've actually accomplished something at the end of the week. Now we're talking about doubling your productivity. So I'm showing my science background here by putting a little formula up on the screen for you. So in essence, what we're saying is that productivity is a measurement of output divided by input. So if you want to increase your productivity, you have to increase the output to input ratio. So either you are better at your inputs to get more output, like your input is a little bit smaller, but your output is way bigger, then your productivity is going to go up. So I hope that makes sense. In layman's terms, for roughly the same input, what we want is a much higher level of output. So for those of you who know me, like I've worked in corporate for many years, and then about 6.5 years ago, I ventured into the online space with my partner, an online business with him. And for the many years I've been in corporate, I've been in sales management. So I need lots of organizational and planning skills. So that held me in really good stead when we did start the business. But stepping into the digital world meant that there was a big learning curve and a lot of personal development involved as well, because when you go from that employee to business owner mindset, plus, the buck stops with you, you do need to draw on different skills and different mindset. But during the time that we've been working through setting up Tim's business and getting things running, and then me setting up my business, I've come across what I feel is like the three main problems that really stand in the way of business owners. But before I go into those in a little bit more depth, I just thought I might tell you a little story about one of the times when I faced a really big problem. For some of you who don't know me that well, 7 years ago, in a fit of inspiration, I decided that I would do a trek to Everest Base Camp in Nepal. Never had trekked before, but did lots of training. But I remember day 3 of the trek, which was like literally uphill all day. And you're talking rocky, uneven paths, and we're trying to get to 𝕋ℍℝ𝕀𝕍𝕀╬𝔾. And middle of the afternoon, you know, we're still in the tree line, so we're surrounded by trees, but I was really getting to the point where I was starting to think, are my legs going to do this? Can I make it? Is this the first time in my life I've actually bitten off more than I could chew, and I'm going to have to give up? Anyway, the guide said to me, you know, what do you want to do? And it was like, well, look around, like there's nowhere for a helicopter to come and get me. It's going to be just as hard getting down as it's going to be continuing to go up. So what we came up with was, you know, that simple idea of just breaking it down and breaking it down. So it was literally, okay, see that tree up there, we're just going to make it to that tree. See around the corner, we're just going to make it to that big rock. So we broke it down so that it just became that little bit, that little bit, that little bit, that little bit. But eventually, just before sundown, mind you, we did get to 𝕋ℍℝ𝕀𝕍𝕀𝕬𝔾, and that was 3,440 meters. And the last hour, can I just tell you, all I could think about was this mantra that was running around in my head: I am strong, I can do this. And it was just, you know, mindset 101 training, like, anyway, I'm not exactly suggesting that you need to go out and do anything quite so radical as tackle Everest Base Camp. But what I'd like you to think about is that actually creating change will involve you stepping outside of your comfort zone and actually committing to something new. So just park that in the back of your mind as we go through all this stuff today, and think about what might be holding you back at the moment and what it is going to take to just push you out of your comfort zone, even just a little bit. Anyway, back to these 3 core problems. And number 1 is the way that we think about ourselves and our abilities. It shapes our lives and our approach to business. And if these thoughts are limited or negative anyway, this can impact on what we end up achieving, whether we stick to the new habits or whether we go on and develop these new skills. The second one is not really understanding how poor time management causes you to always be in a rush, which results in lots of additional stress. And whether you know you have to do something, but you're not doing it, and deadlines are approaching and you're not even close to having it done, or you have to squeeze 2 weeks worth of work into a day or 2, this can all be avoided by organizing your time better. And I can almost hear all of you thinking, yeah, well, it's a lot easier said than done. And I totally agree with you. But, you know, there are some tools that you can use to make it a little bit easier. And the third problem is not really understanding the critical importance of having a planning process that's actually really aligned with your purpose and your mission for your business. Because without creating that alignment, what you can find is that you're not actually really focusing on your key goals right down to your tasks that are going to keep you moving in the correct direction. So what you end up seeing is lots of busyness, but not a lot of progress. So again, you know, I mentioned about thinking about stepping outside your comfort zone, you know, doing something new and different so that you can create that change. And if you make a decision, take some action, you know, it's going to have, you know, way more benefits than downsides, because I know change is not always easy for people either. So today, double your productivity in 2023. We're going to look at 4 things that I believe that we really should have in business to create your success. And the first one is business planning. The second one is business habits. The third one, business time. And the fourth one is business coaching. Now, with all of these, I just mentioned about planning, about keeping things aligned with your purpose and your mission. And when we get to talk about habits, like the habits are the ability to just make small changes, small incremental compounding changes. Now, I'm sure we've all seen or heard discussed the effect of compounding interest, how it grows on an exponential curve. So when you look at implementing small changes for yourself, which build on each other and build on each other, you can create the same effect in your life by either eliminating old habits that no longer serve you, or implementing a new habit that you believe is going to make things easier or better for you. And when I talk about business time, what I'm talking about here is creating that ability to actually get more done than what you currently do in the same amount of time. And for business coaching, this is something you've probably seen many times in the media and stories and social media. Pretty much every elite sports person, sporting team, celebrity, successful entrepreneur, and successful business person all have a coach. It's actually one of the critical components of their success. So before we go any further on that, I just wanted to touch on a couple of what I call success strategies. And these are the things that to get the most out of what you're listening to today, think about adopting these attitudes as you're listening and participating. The first one is to be flexible. You know, open your mind up to experiment and try new things, as long as that's okay and sound for yourself and others. But be creative and think about, you know, just taking on even just a small risk. Be curious. Ask yourself, how is this possible? And determine your outcomes in advance and move towards them. And that's what we will talk about when we get to the planning process. Number 4 is really important. Make sure you don't judge yourself or anyone else in a detrimental way. Just take on board the learnings and move on. You know, because if you start comparing yourself to other people, everybody's at different stages of their business, of their life, of what they're wanting to achieve. So when we start looking at other people and going, oh, but, you know, they've done this and they've done that, you know, you need to stop and just focus on yourself. And number 5 is learning is about growth. And as you learn more, you continue to grow, which that gives you more choices and more flexibility. And just recognize it's not about being right or, as I said, comparing yourself to others, because we are all where we need to be right now. And number 6 is the big one. Perfection or perfect clarity does not exist. Realize you can never know everything. And by waiting for conditions to be perfect or something to be complete, this can put you into this cycle of non-action where you simply, it's like, I just need to tweak this. I just need to, I'll wait till the date's perfect. I'm not sure about that color. I need to check that. So you can get yourself into that cycle where nothing ever seems ready to launch. So what I would encourage you to do, and what I've been doing, if some of you have seen some of my earlier webinars, is just take action and make a promise to yourself that each time you will improve. So why am I showing you 2 pictures of safes, one with money, one without? So it's like this analogy of you put money into the safe, you close the door, you lock it. When you open it back up again, you find 5 times the amount of money you originally placed inside the safe. So think of it this way. This is what we need to do in our business. We need to be able to replicate and know that if we follow our process, each time we do that, the business is going to be successful. And essentially, to make that happen, what you need to do is learn the combination of the safe. Find out for you what it is that opens your safe door. So each time you do this, you can see your business growing and you can see success coming. So if you stop and think about it, like if you can't actually find that combination, this can have negative consequences, both personally and in your business life, because your relationship or your family can be negatively impacted. But in your business too, what you can find is that if you feel like you haven't been able to crack the code for the safe and you start to get overwhelmed, when you try and make decisions, it gets a bit foggy and it's hard to make decisions with clarity and also with confidence. And each day can then, it feels like more of a struggle and an effort than it should be. Like, I guess we've all been in that place where when you're doing something that is really working well, you know it well, and it's actually happening, and you just get into that flow and it feels so good and it feels so much easier. So we want to get you away from the struggle and into those sort of days. And, you know, if we don't address these kind of things, particularly for solopreneurs who are working by themselves, if you leave these things going for too long, you can actually head towards burnout, which none of us want. So having talked all about opening the safe and finding the combination to the safe, how do we actually learn the combination to the safe? Well, one of the key ways to learn the combination of the safe and understand how to do it is to understand the concept that successful people invest in themselves. Now, there's a number of ways that you can invest in yourself. The first one is get a coach, as I mentioned before. Successful people do not succeed alone. They get help. it might appear that they are alone and they're an overnight success, but in the background, 99.999% of the time, you will find that there is a coach and a team or some sort of support behind all of the people that you see, that you believe and perceive as successful. Now, the second thing is that you invest in yourself by studying the work of others. So you become a student of other people's success. So you study what others have done before you, and you pattern yourself on the masters who've come before you. Essentially, why reinvent the wheel when somebody else has done all the blood, sweat, and tears? Now, I'm not suggesting that you just simply go out there and slavishly copy, word for word exactly what someone else has done, but have a look at their processes and their ideas and how they structure things, how they reach out to their audience, and look at the ways that you can then apply for your business that work for you. Because fundamentally, it still has to feel genuine and it has to feel like it comes from you. Number 3, when you're looking to invest in yourself, is to continue your education. So successful people never stop learning, and there's lots of different ways that you can learn. There's formal education, but also in small business land, there's lots of courses that you can do. There's people who will help you, but you yourself, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to TED Talks, read books, listen to books, and get recommendations from other people as to what are they looking at, who are they following, who are they learning from. And investment number 4 is an investment of time. It's not so much money, but time, by attending conferences and events. So don't wait for an opportunity to come to you. Go where the other people are, particularly the people that you admire and see as successful. Now, you could be sitting here thinking, well, after all of this, at the end of this masterclass, I'm probably going to make you an offer to invest in yourself, and you won't be disappointed. You will have an opportunity to invest in yourself and work with me. And if you choose to, I would be really honored. But if you choose not to, that's absolutely fine as well. And I hope that you take away lots of value and learnings from today. And that will be enough for you. Either way, I'll be happy. So let's get into business planning. How do we actually create a killer planning cycle? Now, I talked a little bit before about alignment is crucial to business success. So what I'm talking about there is having your company's purpose, mission, and values all aligned with your clients, your employees, your team. So everyone knows who you are and what you do and what you stand for. Now, there's many reasons, like planning, as you know, is about regularly setting goals, but also more importantly, it's tracking your progress towards these goals and making changes to your business, as you learn more about your customers, your marketplace, your competitors. But the studies that I've looked at have shown that companies who invest the time in planning and review their results regularly actually grow 30% faster than companies that don't. So that's a huge margin, and something that really, given also the statistics of how many small businesses that fail, you can start to see why I'm so passionate about this, and I really want to make sure that people are making this a key focus of how you do your business. And also, as part of the planning, what we want to do is keep moving in the direction of our BHAG, our big, hairy, audacious goal. That's the one that should just scare you a little bit, because it's really going to move you outside of your comfort zone. And then also, in the planning that we're going to talk about today, it's about not only discovering and working through what are your annual priorities in the next 12 months to keep you on track to your BHAG, but how do you actually break that down into quarterly, weekly, and daily chunks, so that each day when you start, it's not like, oh, what am I going to do today? What do I need to do? You are really clear on what's going to happen. And then other people have spoken to me about, why have a high level of accountability in the planning cycle? Like, why do we need to be accountable to other people? Well, I don't know about you, but I found that at any time when I have an accountability buddy, or I've made a commitment to somebody to go for a walk or do something like that, you're much more motivated to actually do that. And that improves your performance, because, you don't want to let people down if you've made a commitment to them. Now, I mentioned big, hairy, audacious goal, and some of you may have heard of it, some may not. It actually comes from a book that was written in 1994 by two gentlemen, the names of Jim Collins and Jerry Porras. And the book was called Built to Last: Successful Habits of Visionary Companies. Now, they described the BHAG as a compelling long-term goal that inspires everyone in the business. Now, when you talk about a BHAG, you're talking about a long-term commitment. You're not talking about a 1 or 2 year plan. You're looking at minimum 5 years, and maybe 10, depending, again, what stage of business you're at and how long you actually intend to work in the business and things like that. And whilst it should be big and scare you a little bit, it should also feel doable, like you feel like you've got at least a 50% chance of achieving it. Now, to give you an example of maybe a really well-known BHAG, President Kennedy's 1961 declaration in the US was, "This nation should commit itself to achieving this goal before the decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely." Now, this national commitment actually resulted in the historic moon landing in 1969. So, as you can see, it was audacious at the time, but it was also time-bound, and it was written in such a way that you actually knew when you'd achieved it. Now, as I said, big, it's not so big that you can't, you never could conceive of yourself achieving it, but it needs to be a little bit wild and crazy and a bit forward thinking, which is where the H, the hairy, comes from. The idea should just, again, push you out of your comfort zone, because it's probably something you've never done before. But, being in business, these are sort of things you need to think about. Audacious should have a bit of a gasp factor. Some of those numbers should really make you think about it. And obviously goals. So it's going to be clearly articulated and connected to your company strategy. So what does this all actually look like in practice? So once you have created your BHAG, how do you actually then create your planning process so that it is aligned with everything? So the first step in the process is your annual review. The second step is you determine your strategic issues. The third step is create your annual priorities. Fourth step is you break that down into your quarterly goals, which then become weekly and daily goals, broken down again. And the fifth step is the review and accountability step. And this one here is probably the most important, because many of us actually do things like an annual review, or we create, on this side of the cycle, but we don't actually get it out very often and review and course correct if we need to. So the first step, annual review, this is what I call mining for gold. So what we look at here is, what have we accomplished in the last year? What are the lessons learned? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And what are our trends? So have I got a slide for each? No. So what I'd like to do now is just get you to do some writing for me and think about, over the last 12 months, excuse me, what have you accomplished in the last 12 months? So these are the things that you want to celebrate. It could be business related, it could be personal related. Let's just see if we can get, normally if we were doing a full scale planning process, we'd be looking for 10 or 15, but maybe today, if you can come up with 5 or 6 things that you've accomplished in the last year, just have a think about that for a few minutes. And I'm just going to stop the share. And are we all on board with that idea? If not, let me know, but I'll just give you a couple of minutes, and then if anyone actually wants to be brave enough to share a couple of the things that they've written down, we can do that as well. So I did talk to Rika about we need to figure out how to have a timer on the screen for next time. So just let me know by a show of hands when you've got 5 or 6, and we'll see if anybody wants to share or if we will simply move on. Launch. You need to mute yourself, Tim. Or unless you want to share. How are we going? Everyone done? Okay. So if you've done your accomplishments, let's stop now for a minute and think about lessons learned. So what we're looking for here is, it might have been something good, might have been something not so good that happened, but what did you learn from it, and how can you leverage from that in the future? So again, just find 5 or 6 things that from the last 12 months where you feel like this is something that's going to help you in the future. I need some elevate. Tim, can you mute your microphone, please?
I was going to say, Shell, if it's okay.
Yes, certainly.
So the lessons I've learned in the past is that when I've worked in a small business, a very sort of isolated, just a single small business online, something I'd never really done before.
Yeah.
And I kind of had no one to share my achievements with. So there was, I felt like, yeah, you might have had a friend or your partner or something to share it with, but the interest wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it was, I felt very lonely, in a word.
Okay.
So lonely. And now that business I ended up just giving up on.
Okay.
Making a loss.
Yeah.
Just selling the product, which was a fairy product, pretty kids thing, which I loved. I loved all of the concept about pretty little girls. So I loved all of that. But I felt so isolated and just like no one really cared. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was so alone.
Yeah.
I've learned from that. And now, as you're aware, and I'll let others know, I'm embarking on a completely different style, but a new type of business. And I have a very different view about that.
Okay. Would you like to share with everyone what sort of business that you've embarked on after this lesson?
Yes. Now, Shell, or later?
Oh, you can tell us now.
Okay.
We're all very casual here today.
Okay. So my business, I mean, I have worked in it. I am a very, very musical person, although I have a background in business ownership, managing, directing, and politics and things like that, as you know, Michelle.
Yeah.
So quite diverse, but I've always had music and was a semi-professional singer. I have had a private music suite previously, but my situation was very different. I was not the primary income earner.
Yeah.
So I had that backing. Now I don't have that for various reasons, and I'm embarking on opening that up, but in a different way, not a private suite, through the NDIS program for disabilities, and in a group setting, I would prefer.
Yeah. So you're finding that having that interaction in the choir setting is taking away that loneliness for you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Well, that's
so I'm
interesting.
currently just doing a choir that does not generate income. It is for anybody. There's no rules and regulations around it, so you don't need to be musical.
Okay,
some of them don't
sounds
sing.
like we need to do a bit more planning on that for you.
Yes, don't you?
Okay, thanks, Lil. All right, so now we've done looking back at accomplishments and lessons learned. Think about what are your strengths? What are your business strengths? And maybe come up with 5 or 6 of those. Sometimes people struggle to come up with strengths because they find it difficult. It feels a little bit like not so much big noting yourself, but we're not used to, I guess, saying strong positive things about ourselves sometimes. And the fourth one was weaknesses. So see if you can come up with 5 or 6 that you would consider weaknesses that if you leveraged them and improved on them would actually improve your business or improve you as a person and a business owner, which would then flow on to the business. I think next time, Rika, we need to organize a little bit of music when we do this. It's a little bit quiet. And then the fifth one on the list was trends. Now, this is an interesting one because when I'm talking about trends, it's kind of like, let's do a 360 and have a look at what's happening in your environment. And this could be economic, it could be trends on social media, it could be trends like currently, everything is going up, everything is costing more. So how is that going to impact on the way that your customers spend their money? Will that impact on their discretionary income? And I know, Kim, you're in real estate, so the interest rate rises are going to impact the way that people think about what they're going to do in terms of changing properties and mortgages. Is there a change in government that's going to impact on rules and regulations? Is the shipping crisis over, or are we still suffering from shortages of materials? So it's kind of like, let's just have a look around and see what is actually happening with a view to how are these things going to impact how I run my business, but also how are they going to impact on my customers? Or if you need staff in your business, how is it going to impact on me finding a good team member? Because I know I talk to lots of different business owners and companies, and the common theme at the moment is the difficulty in finding good staff. You can advertise for a position and get lots of applicants, but finding somebody who is actually qualified and prepared to stay. I was talking to somebody in a manufacturing environment yesterday, and she said, after advertising for quite some time, they got somebody to work in their factory, and he stayed for, I think, 4 days or 5 days. And because it was hot and a little bit dusty and a little bit unpleasant, he just said, no, this isn't for me, and just left. So with this planning process, so we've been through these 5 things, and I'm just going to have a go at sharing the screen again and seeing if I can get it to come back up the way I wanted it to. So when we're doing our annual review, we're looking at what have we accomplished, what are the lessons we've learned, our strengths, our weaknesses, and our trends. In this part of the process, you're simply just creating essentially a list of each of these 5 things. So what do we do when we've got all this information? So now we come up with strategic issues. And what we're doing is we're actually looking for leverage. So when I say that, it's like, if we leveraged on that or we improved on that, it's going to have the biggest impact on your business. So you ask yourself, out of each category that I've just looked at, the 5 categories, select the top 3 from each category, because what you might find is there'll be a bit of overlap with things that, it might be a similar issue, just worded differently, but essentially pick the top 3, and what you want to do is now word it as a strategic issue. So we're not trying to find the solution here. We're just trying to identify what the issue is. So, for example, if you've identified a weakness that you're not using LinkedIn for business, then a strategic issue could sound something like, how do I use my connections on LinkedIn to grow my revenue, which is your objective, given that I don't know how to use LinkedIn, which is your obstacle? Or another example could be, if you've identified a weakness that looks like I'm not sticking to my time blocking in my calendar because I'm underestimating the time needed for each task, then the strategic issue could be something like, how do I effectively use time blocking in my calendar, given that I generally underestimate the time needed for the task? So does that make sense to everybody? And while you're looking at your particular points that you've written down, can you see how you would write them as a strategic issue? So we're not trying to solve it. It's not like, what do I need to do to fix this? This is just like, okay, this is an issue that I need to work on. So is that all clear for everybody? Give me a thumbs up if it is. And then we will move on to the next one. So now that we've identified, and when you go through this process, you'll usually come up with, say, 12 or 15 strategic issues that you've culled down from your initial big list. And then we look at our annual priorities. So this is how we take the strategic issues and we create a priority from them. So here I've got ongoing priorities. So you might have identified something that it's not ever going to be completed and ticked off as, okay, done, we've finished that now. We don't need to look at that again. Something in this category might be something along the lines of customer service, where your ongoing priority is to make sure that, you know, you're actually scoring yourself or your team a 10 out of 10 for customer service. So that would be something that you keep reviewing and giving yourself a score on, but it's never going to be a priority that you're actually going to cross off your list. And then your annual priorities are the ones that were written like before, where there actually is a defined finish point and you know when you've achieved them. So for each strategic issue, you then create the priority, but it's written in the present tense, and it's also written as a SMART goal. So just to remind everybody, SMART goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So if we look at the examples from the previous step, we take the LinkedIn example. This could sound like, I am creating meaningful conversations on LinkedIn every week, and my contact list is now expanded to 1,000 connections. So that's time-bound, it's specific, it's measurable. But again, notice you're not identifying how are you going to solve this yet. All you're identifying is, this is a goal that I am going to work with. And then later on in the process, you would then break that down into weekly goals and daily tasks, which is where you start to figure out, what do I actually need to do to achieve that goal? And maybe for the time blocking example, you might have something like, I am now completing a minimum of 75% of all time block tasks in the time allocated during a 1 week period. Again, very specific, measurable, achievable, time-bound, all of the things that tick the boxes. So then once we have our annual priorities, then we break it down even further. So from your list of, say, 12 or 15 annual priorities, again, what you need to do is be asking yourself the question, out of all of these priorities, which one is it that if I achieve this is going to move me the closest or have the biggest impact on my journey towards getting my BHAG. And once you've chosen that one, then you ask yourself that question another 4 times. So then you come up with, these are the 5 goals that you are actually going to work on in the next 12 weeks, or, like we work in quarters. So if we were doing this full scale, we would do this like December time or early January, and that would be your January, February, March things that you would be working on. Then each week, then you actually break the goals down into what are you going to work on this week so that it moves you closer to achieving that quarterly goal at the end of the quarter. And by making sure that all of the things, each time you break it down, it has to remain aligned with what you're working on. So your 5 weekly goals will all relate to a quarterly goal. Now, you don't have to have, like, if you've got 5 quarterly goals, you don't have to have 1 weekly goal relating to each of them every week, because it will depend on if you're waiting on something, what actually the quarterly goal is, whether in one particular week you might have 4 weekly goals that all relate to the 1 quarterly goal, and you smash that out and you've still got, half of the quarter left. So it's not like you have to like divide it up evenly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then with your weekly goals, you break that down into 3 tasks a day. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you have your 3 tasks, and that's what you're working on. Now, this is obviously separate to just the normal day-to-day running of your business. These are the things that you're working on to actually build and grow your business and scale your business. Now, if there's any questions so far, please unmute yourself and ask a question. And if I haven't explained it clearly, please let me know. And once we've done the 4 steps, this is the one that I was talking about at the start. This review and accountability step is super important, because it's all well and good to create all of those lists and the goals and the plans and all that. But if you don't actually stop and make sure that you are staying on track, or you don't keep reviewing them, you might get to the end of the quarter and find not much progress. So now we start at the bottom up. So we started right up with the annual priorities, and we've broken them right down into daily tasks. So with the daily tasks, you have a daily huddle, and that's Tuesday to Friday, again, assuming you're working Monday to Friday. And that's only going to take 2, 3, 4 minutes. And essentially it's, this is what I was working on yesterday. It's either done, not done, or in progress. And this is what I'm going to work on today. Now, if you work by yourself in your business, I would strongly suggest that you find yourself an accountability buddy, because as I mentioned before, having that visibility and that accountability to somebody else will really help to keep you on track. And it doesn't have to be somebody in the same industry, but it needs to be somebody who's, like-minded and is working on growing their business as well. If nobody springs to mind, I can always help you with that. And if you do decide to work with me further on this, when we do our 2-day workshop, you will meet other people, like-minded people, who will be going into an accountability Facebook group, which I will be running for quarter 1. So you will need to be reporting in there and I can keep you accountable, or I can put you with a buddy if you want. Then weekly huddles. So this, again, it's only a short meeting, 5, 6, 7, 10 minutes. It really depends if you have a team or, you're just working with an accountability buddy. But literally on a Monday, you look at your 5 goals from last week. Are they done, not done, in progress? Your 5 goals for this week and today's 3 tasks. Any bottlenecks you might have come up against, a value that you're going to live this week, and any wins that have happened for you that, as I said, sometimes, and Melissa mentioned it before, when you work by yourself, it can be little bit lonely. So when you're checking in with somebody, always make sure that, if something good has happened, that you share it, or, jump on social media and tell everybody. That's what it's for. And then once a month, set aside, book in a time with yourself, make an appointment with yourself and your team if you have team. And this will take about 1 or 2 hours. And you just check on your progress, celebrate some wins, discuss what's happening. You might find that something that you're working on, that you've set as a quarterly goal, when you've delved into it and started to figure out how to achieve it, it's actually way bigger than what you thought. So, that might then have to be broken down into a couple of sub goals, or part of it held over for the next quarter. But by making sure that you book in and give yourself the time to do this, you won't get towards the end, to the end of the quarter before you actually start to think, oh, hang on a minute, maybe I shouldn't have picked such a big goal. And then your quarterly planning, that's a half to 1 day, and you review, you tick, you celebrate. So if you've ticked off 3 or 4 of your quarterly goals, then you can look back at your original list that you did maybe at the start of the year, or you might want to do a quick review, like a mini annual session where you look at your accomplishments and lessons learned on the last quarter, and any trends or anything else that might have impacted. For example, when a couple of years ago when COVID started, like everybody's planning went out the window and everyone was like redoing, rethinking, rejigging. And I almost said that word pivot, but I shouldn't, because it was done to death. Then after the quarterly planning, you go back to your annual planning. So again, preferably take yourself away, like for quarterly and the annual planning, give yourself some time, if you can, take a day, even 2 days away, like off-site, away from where you normally work, away from distractions. And if you've been working with an accountability buddy, you might want to interact as well, but you will be planning your business and they'll be planning theirs, sorry. And essentially, once you've done the annual planning, then you start the whole cycle all over again. Now, I have mentioned a couple of times, if you are the only person in your business, you might be thinking, well, who can I be accountable to? And I can help you, or you can hop in our Facebook group. Or you might be thinking, I'm not really sure about this concept of mission and purpose and BHAG and all this sort of stuff. So the starting point is to actually ask yourself, what is the reason for my business to exist? And keep delving into that idea. It's not a marketing statement. It's not a pitch statement. It's the fundamental underlying reason for your business. And when you can come up with, a really clear purpose and mission that really speaks to you and speaks to your heart, this is really going to make things a lot clearer for you, and it will help with your growth and your inspiration. And also, when you come to make decisions, you can help use that to guide your behavior and decisions, because if something doesn't fit or align with your goals and your business, then you don't do it. Or if a person doesn't align with your goals and your business, you don't do it. Now, the other thing you might be thinking is, well, it all sounds really good, but what if I don't get my weekly goals done? And, what if I don't get my daily tasks done and all that sort of stuff? So, as I said, at the end of the week, you don't go into a big discussion. We're not looking to, for like, this is why it's not happening. It's just either done, not done, or in progress. And if it's not done or it's in progress, you carry it over to the next week. But take some time to think about whether there's a roadblock that needs to be addressed, or, as I mentioned before, perhaps you've picked something that's just too big a chunk to get done in 1 week. So you need to think about breaking it down into maybe 2 or 3 different goals that you can spread over a couple of weeks. And this is actually the beauty of having regular reviews, because there's no surprises at the end. You don't get to the end of the quarter and go, oh my God, I haven't achieved anything, because you are constantly looking at what's happening. Am I on track? What do I need to do? Is there any roadblocks? And you're not like waiting till the end of the quarter and going, oh, that doesn't look too good. So, are there any questions about any of the stuff that we've gone through so far? I'm just unsharing so I can see if anyone wants to put their hand up or drop a comment in the chat. I'm just checking that. Okay, so I'm just going to go back, because while I was sharing, I didn't read all of the questions. So Lisa, you said, do we get a copy of the presentation at all? Great information I'd like to look back on. Yeah, Lisa, I can make available a copy of the presentation. I am recording it if you'd want to go back and re-listen, but just having the slides would also be helpful. And Colleen, you said, do you mean like making an I am help statement? I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Colleen, do you want to elaborate exactly on that?
Okay, let me get my video going. I meant, hey everybody, I meant like when you were saying about our values, should you start with like your I help these people do this first to break it down?
With your, when you're talking about your values, it's making sure that what you're actually doing is aligned. So you will have a set of company values, like we are family. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Alongside boundaries as well, right?
Yes.
Like this is what we stand by. Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Anyone else, or are we all good? We're all good? Awesome. So now, do I have coming up next for you? It should be, let's talk about business habits. So a habit by definition is a routine or a practice performed regularly. And the key thing is it's an automatic response to a specific situation. So think about what your habits are, how they've helped you in the past. Maybe there's some room for improvement. And habits can be a great way to make certain decisions, also to build consistency into our lives. If we don't actually have to think about doing your 3 tasks every day, if that's a habit that, you've just booked it in your diary, just get up and do it, imagine how productive you're going to be. So let's have a look a little bit more in depth at habits. So why is habit formation important? So fundamentally, actually, before I get started on talking about that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about language, because I am going to say things like start a good habit and stop a bad habit. But what I want you to think about with that terminology is what I'm referring to is adopting a new habit that will better serve you. So something that will be good for you, or stopping a habit that no longer serves you. So stopping a bad habit. But the key here is you, because like you can get into a gray area where something that might be a good habit for one person is not necessarily a good habit for another person, and something that's a bad habit for one person is not necessarily a bad habit for the other person. I can't off the top of my head think of any examples at the moment, but I just really wanted to make sure that you're thinking of it in terms of habits that serve you or habits that don't serve you. Now, fundamentally, the reason why habit formation is really, really useful for us is because our conscious mind is actually the bottleneck of the brain. And the brain can actually only pay attention to one problem at a time. So what your brain is always trying to do is working to preserve your conscious attention for whatever task is the most essential. And you know, the brain's function is essentially to keep us alive and safe. So it needs to have as much conscious attention available for those tasks that it deems important. So what the conscious mind likes to do is pawn off tasks to the unconscious mind, any task that can be done automatically. And this is what happens when we form a habit, because the habit actually reduces the cognitive load in the brain, frees up mental capacity so you can allocate your attention to other tasks. Now, it's also important in that to understand that when I said the brain can only pay attention to one problem at a time, when you're like, people think they're multitasking because you can do two things at once. But what actually happens when you're multitasking is you are switching your attention between the two tasks, because you can only actually pay attention to one problem at a time. You can do, and when you're doing things automatically, you can pay attention to something and you can be actually doing something automatically. For example, I'm liking to think a good example is, you know, when you're driving and you're listening to something, but then you need to pay attention to your driving because either it's raining really hard or you're getting lost. Have any of you ever found yourself actually turning down the volume so that you can really focus on what you're doing, rather than just that unconscious thing happening in the background? Same thing, like, you know, if we're walking and doing something, and sometimes if you have to really pay attention to something, you might actually stop walking so that you can really focus on something. I hope that all came across clearly. It was clear in my head. So I hope I've been very articulate with that one. So one of the other reasons why it's important to have habits is that it's hard to actually build habits, because sometimes when you start, let me think, you make changes and you implement the changes and you do the changes for a week, but you don't see any results. Like, and I'll use a fitness example. where, you know, okay, you're going to walk every day or run every day or go to the gym every day. So you've stuck to your plan for a week, but you don't look or feel any different and you haven't lost any weight. So people get discouraged and stop. So let me use an analogy to try and explain this, where, you know, by continuing to do the habit, you're actually building up that potential for change. So imagine you're sitting in a really, really cold room, like it's below zero, say -4 centigrade, and there's an ice cube sitting on the table in front of you, and the room is really cold, like you can see your breath, and the ice cube is just sitting there. It's not doing anything. Then ever so slowly, the room starts to warm up. So it's -3.5, then it's -3, then it's -2.5. So there's changes happening, but the ice cube is still sitting on the table in front of you and it hasn't started to melt, nothing's changed. And you get to -2, -1.5, -1, -0.5, and still nothing has happened. The ice cube is still sitting there in front of you. Then you hit 0 degrees and the ice actually starts to melt. Now, the last change was only a shift of 0.5 degree, and really it wasn't any different to any of the changes that had happened before, but it actually unlocked a huge change. So this is like a breakthrough moment where it's actually what you're seeing is the result of many previous actions that actually build up that potential ready to unleash the change. So if any of you have seen, you know, exponential graphs that curve upwards, your progress is not linear. It's not a straight line. So you can be implementing habits that don't appear to make any difference whatsoever, but then you can cross a critical threshold, and it's different for every habit, and you actually unlock a new level of performance. And another example of thinking about this is watching a stone cutter hammering away at a rock, maybe 100 times without so much as a crack happening. Yet on the 101st blow, it splits in two. And it wasn't the last blow that did it. It was the effect of all the blows that have gone on before. And then if you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem sometimes is not actually you. The problem is your system. So bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong system for change. What I mean by that is when you solve the problem at the outcome or the results level, you're only solving the problem temporarily. And to actually change for good, you need to solve the problem at the systems level. So to explain that, imagine if you have a messy room and the result is that you want a tidy room. If you summon up enough energy to tidy it, then you'll have a clean room for now. But if you maintain the same sloppy habits that led to the messy room in the first place, then soon you'll have another messy room and you'll be looking for more motivation to clean the room up. So you're actually then chasing the same result because you didn't change the system. So in this case, the system that you need to change is the sloppy habits that lead to the messy room in the first place. So I hope that all sounds crystal clear for everybody. Now, how do we implement a new habit? Let's talk about implementing a good habit or a habit that will better serve you. So there's 4 processes. There's the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. So the cue is what triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. And it's the information that actually predicts the reward. And the craving, it's not the habit itself that you crave, it's the change that it delivers. For example, you don't have a habit of wanting to turn on the television. Your habit is wanting to be entertained. That's the reward. The response, as the word says, that's the actual habit that you perform, either through a thought or an action. And then the reward. And the reward satisfies us. And it also teaches us which actions are worth remembering for the future. So when you have a look at transforming and creating a good habit, so the first law, or the first step for a good habit, is to make it obvious. Now, that could mean putting something out in your environment to remind you that you want to do something. For argument's sake, if you want to play the guitar more often, then you might leave your guitar on a stand in your lounge room, so you actually see it and it prompts you that, that's right, I wanted to play the guitar more. The second one is make it attractive. Now, what I mean by that, an example of that is you can pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. So something like, if you actually want to check your Facebook, but you actually know that you need to call 3 potential clients every day, your process might be, after I call my 3 potential clients, then I get to check Facebook. So you've linked something that you want to do with something that you have to do. With the response, you make it easy. And an example of that is priming your environment. So preparing your environment to make future actions easy. So that would be something like, if you want to be creative and you want to draw more, you put your pencils, your pens, your notebooks, and all your drawing tools actually on top of your desk within easy reach, rather than put away where you can't see them. And then the fourth law, or part of creating the good habit, is to make it satisfying. So you could give yourself a reward if you perform your habit regularly. So say you want to increase the amount of time you spend exercising, you wouldn't reward yourself with a bowl of ice cream, because that doesn't really reinforce the identity that you're trying to create of a healthier, fitter person. Instead, you would perhaps look at a reward which is more in line with that identity that you're trying to create, where your reward could be, after 2 weeks, a massage, or something that's nice for you, and it's aligned with taking care of your body, or a manicure or pedicure or something like that. Again, if there's any questions with any of this, please feel free. And then, how do we break a bad habit? Well, literally, we're just going to invert what we learned about good habits. So you make it invisible, you make it unattractive, you make it difficult, and you make it unsatisfying. So what are some examples of those? Make it invisible. So reduce your exposure to the cue that causes it. If you can't seem to get any work done because you get distracted, take your phone and put it in the other room for a few hours, so that you have uninterrupted focus time. make it unattractive is reframe your mindset, highlight for yourself the benefits of avoiding your bad habit. For example, I don't know many people these days who still do smoke, but a smoker might think that they need to keep smoking because it's something they need to do to be social, but it's actually not. You can be social without smoking at all. So you're just reframing that whole thing in someone's mind. And make it difficult. You can use a commitment device. And what I mean by a commitment device is it's something that you choose to use so it restricts your future choices to ones that benefit you. A good example of this one is putting a timer device on the power source for your internet and having cut out at 10 p.m. every night, particularly if you have teenagers that you are wanting them to get off their devices and go to sleep. And make it unsatisfying. One way to do that is to ask someone to watch your behavior, and that would be getting an accountability partner like I talked about before, because knowing that somebody is watching you can be a very powerful motivator. Now I'm just going to move. I'm conscious of the time. As usual, I'm probably talking for too long about each area, but with business time, if everyone has the same number of hours in a day, why do some people seem to get so much more done than others? And how do they achieve more and earn more and have more? That time management isn't about working more. It's how to be more productive in the time that you have available. So one of the ways to do this is to use a tool called the focusing question. Now, I've put that up on the screen, and it's what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary. Now, it's actually deceptively simple, but it's quite a powerful question, because this is the type of question that can lead you to answer big picture questions like, where am I going? What target should I aim for? But also small focus ones as well. What do I need to be doing right now to stay on the path to getting the big picture? Where's the bullseye? So the big picture is, what's my one thing? And the small focus is, what's my one thing right now? So if we break down that question, so in part one, if we look at I'll just put the pointer, oh no, that's not working. What's the one thing I can do? Now this sparks focused action. The last part of the phrase, can do, is actually an embedded command directing you to take action that is possible. Then the second part, such that by doing it. Now this is the bridge between just doing something and doing something for a specific purpose. And then part three, this is the leverage test. This is the part of the question which can elevate the answer's potential to really changing your life and avoiding distractions, because often people struggle to actually understand that there's lots of things that they don't actually need to do. And if they look at this question, and this actually relates also when we were looking at the annual planning process before, and you're trying to create your annual priorities, or choosing your quarterly goals or choosing your weekly goals. this is the type of question that you can ask yourself. Like, what is the one thing, like what is the one annual planning, like what is the one annual priority that I can do that when I achieve it, everything else will become either much easier or actually unnecessary. So if you can pinpoint that, then like it's going to make your whole planning process so much easier. And then the last thing I just quickly wanted to touch on was business coaching. Now, I mentioned before, successful people invest in themselves, and that sports teams, athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, business people, they all work with coaches. And I have a quote that I think pretty much sums up what a coach does. And this is a quote from Tom Landry, who was very well known in the US as a football coach for 29 years, I think, with the Dallas Cowboys, 29 seasons. So a coach is someone who tells you what you don't want to hear, who has you see what you don't want to see, so you can be who you have always known you could be. So just let that sink in for a moment, because it is all about having somebody who can really, you know, pull out everything that you have within you and help you achieve what you want to achieve, by asking sometimes the hard questions, or making you uncomfortable, or helping you to sit outside of your comfort zone and just sit in that discomfort, but move forward. So I thought I'd just take an opportunity now and just quickly review some of the things that we've covered today, and how the tools and ideas that we've talked about, and how they will help you working in your business, but also some of the things we've talked about can be applied also to your personal life. So we've looked at tools for developing the structure and systems in your business that will allow you to carve out the time for business growth, and really importantly for you, because you need to make time for yourself. The tools to build a system to boost your profitability and performance. How using an accountability buddy or a team member can help you stay focused. How making changes that will stick by incrementally making small changes and building new habits in both your business and your personal life. By being more productive in the time that you have available. By changing your behavior, by changing your beliefs about yourself. And then giving you the tools to expand your impact, perhaps beyond your local community, through the growth of your business. Now, we touched on some problems at the start, and I just wanted to just reiterate, some of the reasons why you're all here today, because you're looking to build your business and get away from that stress and overwhelm that's coming with it. You want to build your revenues and your profit. You want to approach each day with clarity and knowing what you need to work on right now. And this is one I hear lots of times, that you want to focus on the creative side of your business instead of having to wear too many hats in your business. And for some people, they need their business to succeed so they don't have to go back to a job. And other people are at the point where they want to spend less time in their business and more time improving their family relationships. And you also want the assurance that you can get help and support to get your business onto the path for success. So what if 1 was the worst outcome on all of these and 10 is nirvana? Imagine how you would feel if you could actually score a 10 out of 10 for all of those things that I've just gone through. Wouldn't that be amazing? So just imagine, how would you like to go on holidays for the next 7 days and I could fix all the issues in your business? Just imagine that. You could just step aside and I could just sit in there and I got everything done and sorted for you. Well, I actually can't do that, but what I have created instead is my Done For You workshop, which is going to give you pretty much the same outcomes. So I'd be sitting side by side with you for 2 days of intensive work where we do a deep dive into the planning and actually come up with all of the structure that you'll need for the quarter, but also more depth in terms of habit formation, time management, and we will spend some time looking at your purpose and your mission so that we make sure when we do the planning process that everything is truly aligned. So for some of you on the call, you've not worked with me before, so I just thought I would take this opportunity to share a testimonial that I was given earlier in the year. This is from Matt when we were working May, June, July time. So working with Michelle has been an empowering experience right from our first session. She's provided a coaching environment where I feel safe to be myself, and I've had the freedom to work through things in my own way and at my own pace. Throughout our time together, Michelle has always kept me accountable for my actions. I'm not a slave, but I do keep people accountable. And I always asks questions to help me really explore the things I'm working on. Anytime I've had a roadblock, Michelle has been able to help me clear the way. And some nice comments about positive energy. Now, my program that I've put together, the 2 days intensive workshop, followed by 90 days of support, which I'll explain to you in a moment. So it's not for people who want to be busy and not productive, stay stressed and overwhelmed, work crazy hours without increasing your profit, people who want to make decisions on the fly, and people who want to ignore the planning process and focus on their goals. So if you're one of those people, then my program is not for you, but it is for you if you want to be in control of your business and your life. You want to make decisions clearly and decisively. You want to nurture your relationships. You want to get support and encouragement from a community of like-minded business owners. You really want to get your business pumping and you want to hit your goals and you want to realize your potential for success and really start living your best life. This is another quick testimonial from Ali. I'm not going to read it out. You can just quickly read that on the screen, but apparently I'm fun to work with and you'll get a few laughs along the way. So if that's important to you, know that there's a serious side to me, but there's also a cheeky, quirky side. Now, at the end of Foundations of Success, which is my 2-day program followed by the 90-day support, you will have learned how to plan for your business to become the entrepreneur you've always wanted to be, become crystal clear about your purpose, your mission, and your values. You will have developed an understanding of how to actually be organized and productive every single day that you work. Learn how to create lasting change in your life by building with small incremental changes. And that's really important, because often if you try to make a change, but you start too big, you get deterred and nothing's going to happen. And I mentioned this before, find out why the myth of multitasking is exhausting you. And another quick testimonial, this is from Hayley that I'm working with in Melbourne. She's just starting up her business. So for people who are in startup phase, I can help you as well. And again, I'm not going to read all that out. I'll let you just quickly skim through that. Now, what is it? I've mentioned Foundations of Success. What is this? This is a 2-day workshop. This will be running on Thursday, the 12th of January and Friday, the 13th of January, 2023, from 9 in the morning till roughly 5 in the evening. At this stage, the plan is for online. So it's a done with you workshop. So you will be not just sitting there listening to me talk and teach you stuff. You will actually be doing your planning. You will go through your mission, purpose, and values. We will create your annual priorities. We'll break them down into your goals for Q1. We'll set up your meeting rhythms for 2023, right down to your weekly and your daily huddles. We'll look at your habits and we'll help you find the ones that you want to add and the ones you want to eliminate, and a process to work through for that. And we will be planning your calendar for productivity, helping you time block, but also how to maintain that time block. So often you will see workshops like this offered where there's the 2 days, but I'm also going to be supporting you for the full Q1, following on with Facebook group workbooks. So you'll have a workbook at the workshop. We've done for you templates, and we will be implementing a 30-day habit implementation challenge to, that will be based around, one thing that you really, really want to implement that is going to make the biggest change for you. And we will get you started with that 30-day challenge. There'll be 2 group coaching calls, a weekly accountability group, and then if you want a daily accountability buddy, we will find one for you. And of course, email support at any time. So what would you look to pay for something like this? So I've broken it down for you. This is all Australian dollars, by the way, 1,597 for the 2-day workshop. The workbook's $297, the 30-day challenge $347, the 2 group coaching calls $300, the accountability group and the email support, I didn't put a number on that. So for a total of $2,541. But I am not going to charge you that today, because people who invest their time to come to events like this, their action should be rewarded. So the total cost, if you sign up with me by midnight tonight, will be $1,297. And if you actually sign up by midnight tonight, you will also get a bonus one-on-one coaching session with me as well for that same value price of $1,297. And I also do offer a money-back guarantee. If you come to the workshop and we get through the first day and you decide that this is not for you and this is not going to work, I will refund your money in full and you will get to keep your workbook. It takes away the risk. So for anybody who wants to join me, there's the QR code that you can scan on the screen. And 𝕋ℍℝ𝕀𝕍𝕀 is going to put in the chat the link, and that will take you to the payment gateway. It's payment through Stripe, which is very secure. So scan the code or click on the link if you would like to join me for Q1 2023 and feel like we are absolutely going to smash those goals together. Once you sign up, we will send you the details and the paperwork and the workbook and all of that sort of stuff as well. So thank you, everybody, for listening to me. Now, I have one more thing that I want you to think about. What does your future look like? Now, with your permission, we're going to do a closed eye exercise. So how are we going? We've got Lisa still here and Tim and 𝕋ℍℝ𝕀𝕍𝕀. So I will just share the screen back again. So what I would like you to do now is relax on your seat and get yourself comfortable. Take a nice, relaxing, deep breath in. And as you exhale gently, just close your eyes. Now take another nice, relaxing, deep breath in. And as you exhale, I want you to imagine floating up out of your body, gently floating up all the way. When you look down, you can see yourself sitting there comfortably in the chair, in the room that you're in right now, knowing that you are totally safe and secure in all ways. Imagine yourself now floating all the way up above the building you're in, floating up through the clouds and floating up above everything. And as you float all the way up into the sky, as far as you can go, I want you to observe down below your stream of time. You have your past stretched off in one direction, and your future stretches off in another direction. Now go ahead and step out 3 months into the future and realize the compounding effect of the change that you have created in your business and your life. As you look back down your stream of time, you can see each of the goals and the tasks you set yourself 3 months ago are happening effortlessly. Everything is flowing towards you. What do you notice? What do you notice around you? What is different? What kind of results are you creating in your life right now? And what are you feeling? What are the emotions that you're feeling as you look around you and you see the results that you've created? Now, I want you to leave all that out there, knowing that it's yours whenever you want it. Float back along your stream of time, back into the here and now, and float gently back down towards your body. Take a nice, relaxing, deep breath and allow yourself to become aware of the chair that you're sitting in and the temperature of the room that you're in. wriggle your fingers, wriggle your toes, put a nice big smile on your face, and open your eyes. So thank you, everybody. That is the finish of the masterclass. If you have any questions, just checking the chat. And Lisa, anything that you
no, only that what is your calendar like for next year, and doing that next year? It's not something that would be available to myself for this year, but it's definitely something that I could look into for next year. So
what I'm planning to do is I will run the workshop early in January for Q1, and then towards the end of March next year, I will run the workshop again, and we will be focusing on what's happening in Q2. And similarly, towards the end of June, we will look at doing something for the July, August, September, and it will be an ongoing process. And eventually, what I'm looking at next year too is, instead of a two-day event, I would like to, as I build my network as well, expand it to a 3-day event. So the first day would be guest speakers, where we can look at different skills that people might need to learn as well, or people who want to come in and share about skills. Like, I mean, I'm not an expert in everything. So for example, we might look at having a photographer come in and talk about how to do good selfies and take some photos in the event. Or we might have someone come and talk about financial planning, or advertising on Facebook, or organic Facebook strategies. So it'll be a mixture of those sort of skills, but then we will still continue with the 2 days of the planning and the habits and the time management. So that's a very long answer to your question, but I hope that helps.
No problem at all. It does help. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for staying to the end. There's a few private messages that have popped up, and people had to go and take calls and pick daughters up from school and different things like that. So Lisa, I will catch up with you very soon. I'm just going to stop the recording.